Heyo, welcome everyone to Today in the Scene by Indie Arcade Wave. I'm Joe, your host, and here on In the Scene, we dive into what's happening in the arcade space, from new arcade developers, arcade owners, and operators, and just news in the space in general. Now, I've been with Galactic Battleground for over 5 years now. We've been showing it off at conventions all over the country, and that's actually how I met our guest for today. I was at Midwest Gaming Classic in Milwaukee and decided to go to Uptown on the last night after the show was over, and Kelly and I met Adam and some other people that were there from why am I Marco Pinball and Bad Penny Pinball as well in St. Paul. But Adam owns an arcade in California called Rewind Arcade, and we're gonna bring him on and chat about his arcade, kind of figure out why he started it and what it takes to run an arcade. How you doing, Adam?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm great. I'm great. I'm glad you were able to come on here, and I've been curious as to what's going on with your arcade. I've been following you on Instagram for a little bit here since we met, and I see you guys run a bunch of tournaments and a lot of stuff. So let's
Yeah.
just jump in first with who is Adam? What do you do?
Well, I'm basically the owner and so-called operator at the Rewind Arcade. So we opened May 27th. I have a background in I kind of fell into the space because I originally owned a an Airbnb. I was in real estate before, and I owned an Airbnb property that I wanted like a particular niche and create like a special experience for my guests. And so we did that, and we created a arcade themed Airbnb with its own private arcade here in the same town, in Sebastopol, California. We're located in Sonoma County, which is basically, for the people that don't know anything about the Bay Area, it's about an hour north of San Francisco. It's kind of west of Napa. I guess everybody knows Napa wines and stuff like that. So yeah, that's what I am right now. So we stopped doing that, and I've always wanted to create like a public space and create kind of like a local community center vibe with as just has great great games from my childhood. Also has meticulously maintained games. All the games in our arcade usually work. We're running a tap system. We're not doing quarters, which sometimes disappoints some people because people love that nostalgic, quarter dropping. But for me particularly, I don't really like carrying $20 worth of quarters and constantly putting them in machines. Um, yeah, so I mean, I'm the owner operator. I've been doing this. Took me about 3 years from business plan to opening day, which was last year, May 27th. We're just about to hit our 1 year mark, which would be May 27th, which is Labor Day. So it's heating up here in California. It's getting a little warmer. So yeah, it's been a really interesting experience because this is kind of my first arcade. It was kind of I kind of call it like guerrilla warfare because it's just like you just throw things at the wall and then see if they stick. And um, I kind of tell people that how I run the arcade is just like I just the same theme every day is just I want to kick some ass. So um, like one day at a time, which is kind of like a 12-step thing, but one day at a time, kick some ass. Try not to of course leave, how do you say, like live my life, life manageable. So we started out with like 10 pinballs and probably like 10 to 15 retro arcades that I accumulated over the time that I was running this Airbnb business. And back to the Airbnb business, I probably started out with one pinball and one arcade, which was like a Neo Geo 161 and something, one cartridge, and then it was like a T2 pinball from my childhood. Um, and that quickly grew from like 20 games, 20 arcades, and then it became 50, and then it became like I think I have over 100 retro arcades now that I restore and kind of get create like I always constantly am working on different projects to bring new arcades to the arcade which we're doing now, which is a public arcade. Um, we were particularly at least for the Airbnb side, we were particularly like successful during the pandemic because no one can go anywhere besides like short-term rentals. So we would, we did this kind of, well, at least for the Airbnb project, was that we were running a kind of like on demand pricing. So it would just like totally change. So that's what most hotels, they work as, in that kind of pricing model, where they, it just depends on, the demand, and it can go up in price, it can go low in price. um I got sick of that because it was just like, it just felt like very exclusive, in terms of, a lot of, not a lot of people, not like kids could be a part of it. And we I just really wanted to kind of do something where I can meet a lot of people and be part of the community. And yeah, so I opened this May 27th. It's been received very well, because in the county that I am in right now, there's nothing. It's like a arcade desert. So I think the closest we have is like, some breweries. They have operators that throw a bunch of games in there. Some are not particularly maintained very well, because operators have to be all over the place and take care of, I don't know, multiple different locations. As like Scandia. I don't know if anybody's from the West Coast, but Scandia is kind of like the Malibu back in the day, or like Aladdin's Castle, or whatever kind of so-called FEC. Um, yeah, so I've been doing this for almost a year now. And it's just, man, we just took off running from the start. Like our first month, like we probably, I mean, it was just crazy. We also feature a 20 tap self pour beer wall. So basically, all the people, it's everything is, it kind of keeps like the labor really manageable, in terms of, so we only need like one or two people on site. Of course, with the beer side, you need to check their IDs. Then you open up a tab, and then you hand them an RFID card, which opens up the taps, and they can start pouring beer themselves. With the arcade, it's super easy. It's just, there's like a kiosk, and then you just pay your money at the kiosk with a credit card or cash, and then card spits out, and then you just start playing games. Um, I gotta apologize. I just got home, and there's like kids coming in and out, and there's maybe knocking on the door. So apologize if you hear my daughter like calling me to do something or anything like that. Yeah, so it's been really cool. We're immediately getting some recognition, in terms of, there's some really, really great pinball spots, which are the Flipper Room in Concord, California. There's also a really, really, really cool pinball spot that I kind of got my inspiration from, which is called whatchamacallit, Lynn's Arcade in Seaside, California. It's really close to Monterey. I kind of stumbled upon that place, and because my kids were like super young, I think they were like 2 and 4, and I just needed like a break, and just so I looked up retro arcade in that area, and then I popped into the arcade, and I just like immediately fell in love. So yeah, I don't know what
Yeah,
else to say.
you're good. Yeah, that's perfect. I mean, I love to hear kind of how everything started, starting with the Airbnb. I think that's really cool. Was that like you had the Airbnb and you were like, I want to add something unique, so you started collecting games, or were you already interested in the idea of collecting games before that?
It just became like that Neo Geo that I got was just like, wow, I can actually go on Craigslist and pick up these arcade games from my childhood.
Right.
The funny thing, there was this, like, I played this game. I don't know if anybody has played this game, King of Monsters, on Neo Geo, but it's basically like, you're like Godzilla, and
Right.
you're trying to destroy the city. And like you're like, there's like King Kong, and there's all these other like characters that are destroying Tokyo, like in this on this little map. And then you can go to different places to destroy cities, and
Okay.
it's kind of Wrestle Fest, but like uh
Kind of like Rampage a little bit.
yeah, but you're like kind of, you can go up and down, and there's like stuff attacking you, bombs being dropped on you, and stuff like
Okay.
that. I particularly remember playing that game. I don't. I mean, it just brought me back to that space when I was like, I don't know, 13 years old or 10 years old. And just, man, it just lit a fire underneath me. And then I think we were playing like Metal Slug, and there's a whole bunch of games on that like 161 and cartridge. Um, I eventually actually sold that Terminator 2. I had a Terminator 2 pinball also as my first pinball for that Airbnb space. It was kind of just like the first one to see if it was being received, kind of, how it was being received. Did people like it? Was it drawing more bookings for the Airbnb? Um, and then I just was like, I realized that I was running out of storage because I was collecting so many games that I was just like, where am I going to put these massive arcades? So, and I just realized, wow, like if I actually fill this whole massive garage, I think the garage was like maybe 400 to 5, maybe like, no, it was like, what was it, like 400? It was like 600 square feet. So you can fit like a good amount of games in there.
Yeah, that's enough space for quite a few games.
Yeah, so we had an air hockey table in there. We had like a massive Time Crisis. I don't know if you've ever seen that Time Crisis where it's like the
Yep.
50-inch projectors. It has a little pedestal in the front. We fit that in there. It had like a projector screen so you can play movies and stuff like that. So it was pretty decked out. Which, honestly was kind of like a gift from heaven, because it was just like during the pandemic, it was like none of us were like, I think we're still like in the real estate space kind of thing like that. So it was definitely like hard because the pandemic just knocked everything out, and it was like producing like pretty good income for our family. It basically fed our family during the pandemic. So thank you, that Airbnb that I eventually sold probably last year. I sold it within like 3 weeks. And then it was just like, yeah, I want to run the same business, and someone just picked it up, and they're running the business as it is right now. It's like a turnkey property because everything was kind of thought out.
Right, it was all set up for Airbnb, so they just bought one that they could just start up right away.
Yeah, they just got a new what you call it, like a short-term rental license or whatever here locally, and then he just went running. So it's a beautiful property. I kind of miss it, but at the same time, it's like once I realized that I was starting this arcade, I was never there because
Right.
I managed both of them. Um, it was challenging from the beginning at the arcade because everybody says like the staffing is probably, or your employees are probably the hardest thing to um to figure out. I mean, we
Right.
had our employees were like, we had like 60-year-old men like saying they wanted to be a part of this. Like we had like a wide range of employees, and then it was just kind of like we kind of just weeded everybody out because it was a hard job because we were
Yeah.
so, like, the first day we opened, we had like 800 people walking through the door.
Jeez, that's a good opening day.
Yeah, and it was like literally Labor Day. So May 27th. What's the date today? It is
The 8th or 9th? 8th.
today?
Yep, 8th of April or of May, sorry.
8th of May. So we're gonna be 1 year old very soon, probably like less than 20 days, less than 3 weeks. Um, I don't know. I don't expect it to be like that, like crazy, but and we are also, we're also running the beer wall too, which is a whole nother game.
That's brilliant. Like I think that's so smart to cut down on your labor
Yeah,
of the bartenders by just having the beer wall. They have one at Can Can Wonderland here in St. Paul, and it's really cool. I
I
think that's such a smart way to keep overhead down so that the arcade has less pressure.
was actually modeling my place after that.
Yeah.
I heard they have like a really cool vibe over there.
Mm-hmm. I did a full walkthrough of the arcade. I love it.
Yeah, does that have an arcade over there?
Yeah, it's actually got the prototype for Galactic Battleground that we built years ago.
Okay.
They have that in there full time, and then I don't even remember how many games they have. It's got to be like a good 100 arcade games, and then probably like 50, 60 pinballs, and they have a ton of like
Oh,
pinballs from like the 60s and 70s,
that
and
is so cool. You guys are really lucky.
it's a cool spot. It's definitely unique. I don't
Yeah.
think I've seen too many like it.
Yeah, so where I'm at, it's kind of interesting because where, at least on the beer front, there's, they have like, I don't know if you've heard of Russian River Brewery, Lagunitas. There's a lot of fermentation stuff going on. Of
Yeah.
course, down to like wine and then beer, like craft beer. I think Russian River Brewing is famous like worldwide, and also Lagunitas is famous worldwide.
I
I
know
don't know.
Lagunitas.
Yeah, so Russian River Brewery was kind of like the first like craft beer to actually like come on the scene and like make it. Like people travel like all over the world to have their called Pliny the Younger, which is this, I guess it's like it's like a triple or something like that. It's like their yearly, triple IPA or whatever it is. Um, so it's a cool space because there's a lot of we kind of were focused on trying to get like do something really different in terms of that beer wall because we didn't want to carry whatever people had. I know this may not be arcade, but it's kind of, and whenever something arcade envision comes in, we always bring it in, and it's kind of like we try to find beers that kind of add a flair, sours that have like cool like milkshake or just like kind of fun kind of.
Something obscure that you don't see everywhere else.
Yeah, we carry stuff from like from Oklahoma and stuff like that that people are just like, wow. So they come to our place, and it's cool because the beer wall allows people to like be able to try things. Like you can just try a little bit and then see if you like, because like you go to any usual bar, it's like you have to have a pint, and then it's just like, damn, like I don't even like this beer. You know what I mean? So people really like that. What I was trying to get at was that there's just not a lot of people that are doing that kind of thing here. We're kind of like groundbreaking in terms of having that beer wall. I mean, even in the Bay Area around here, I don't really know. Maybe I know of like one or two or three places that do that. I don't know why, but people say it's really awesome. For food wise, we do. Our POS is working through I think GoTab, so they offer like a QR code that gets sent to like some of the eateries that are around. We're located in this kind of high end outdoor mall. It used to be an old apple canning factory back in, I don't know, the 50s or something like that, and it's just a really really cool mall that's just it's actually pretty high end. And not meaning, I mean, they have like distilleries there, they have art galleries, they have coffee shops, they have a few other, tap rooms there. What else they have? Like high end like restaurants. I'm talking about like places that are like $50 to $100 a person kind of thing. Um, when I was initially getting into this place, because the rent is really high. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure. I'm not sure any viewers are. I'm not sure like where you're at. I mean, I'm not sure how the rents are. Probably pretty high, but here in the Bay Area, it's like astronomical. So that's why it's hard for small businesses to make it. Because the rents are just so high. My initial concern was that was a retro arcade going to be received well in this space? You know what I mean? Because it's, I don't know. I've been in a lot of retro arcades. They're kind of like in malls, or they're in like these dive bars, or they're next. I don't know. They're I don't know. They're maybe downtown someplace, or they're not in like a high end mall. I guess you may have that one of those. I guess every city has one of these places, but to drop in,
Every arcade's a little bit different, yeah. But
yeah. So I kind of I felt a lot of pressure to kind of make it feel like I wanted to go for like kind of like the Las Vegas feel, like a lot of like big art around, and
okay.
like super nice, like clean, and like I'm like, people come into my place and they're saying like, this is probably the cleanest arcade I've ever seen in my entire life. Like my staff will go over and clean the glasses and wipe down buttons, because there's a lot of dead time, because you're not a bartender. You're basically like helping people pour their beer, right?
Right.
Checking them in, and then closing out the tabs that we have for our beer. But everything arcade wise is just kind of like just basically self,
So,
kind of maintains itself. I
yeah.
mean, if you go to any other arcade, like there's no attendant, right? People go in and they just do their thing, right? So
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I mean, the labor side of it, the beer wall, like it sounds like everything that you did is really intentional, obviously. And you said earlier that in running the arcade, you just kind of try and figure things out. Like you just throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. I see that you run a lot of events with like Double Dash, and I think I saw Super Strike or Mario Strikers and Smash tournaments, stuff like that.
yeah.
What events have you found that were successful in your arcade? Because I know that there are people watching that are interested in starting their own arcade, and I think running these alternate events that are more like console based, or I guess newer, like GameCube is newer than a lot of these retro games. So what events have you found that were really successful for you for Rewind?
We first started out with Smash Ultimate, because we had we had a guy that was running it for like years, right? So he had like a following, had a base, you know what I mean, like a base, and we also do karaoke too, and we also have DJ nights on Saturday nights too. So it's actually like kind of not just game stuff, but and Smash Ultimate was really received well. It's kind of like, honestly, it was actually the last one that we did for Smash Ultimate was the last time that he was going to do it. He said he just got burnt out, and he was like 6 years. Um, Smash Ultimate was does well. We probably had like 15 to 20 players. I also find that like you know it's hard because not everybody drinks. Like everybody is so focused on the game that not everybody is like trying to support the venue.
Yeah, you usually drink after you get knocked out.
Yeah, but it's just I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it was just me, but I just felt like there was just not a lot of you know. It also comes from like you have high school kids or college kids, then they don't have a lot of money like disposable income to drop a whole like $20 on a beer. Like that would be a lot for them or
Or
something.
they're not 21.
Or they're not 21. Yeah, so there's that. But I mean that was okay for me in most respects because it was just I'm more like I just told someone recently, like all I'm about right now is about the vision and the vibe. It's a two V's, right? For me, it's just like vision and the vibe. The vision is just what we're going for. What's the future looking like, and what's going to happen like 2 or 3 years from now. I know I'm here right now, but I'm also like, and then the vibe is always like the number one. Like people come into the arcade and they're just like, I like this vibe. Like they come in, they can feel it. You know what I mean? And it should feel really like for me like really organic. Is that means that like it comes from like it just comes through your heart, man. You know what I mean? Like it's something that is just like, oh, I feel like this person was very intentional and they know that the person who is running this is passionate about what they do. I don't know if that's true for Candyland, but I've been to arcades where it was just like, okay, there's a bunch of candy cranes and it just feels very how do you say it? Like a hospital kind of thing, or not a hospital, but just very like cookie
Kind of like
cutter.
a money grab. Like they're just trying to put stuff in that's gonna make them money really quick.
Like I was in like Arizona and I went to this arcade and it was just like all full of cranes. I mean, they did have upstairs full of like 10 pinballs, but it just didn't feel like it didn't feel unique. You know what I mean? I want people. I mean, I think it's whatever it is for whoever it is that wants to do this. I think it's good that we all have. I'm really a creative person, so I use the arcade as kind of like my canvas. You know what I mean? Like it's my way of expressing myself and also being unique. And everybody has a different definition of that. And that's what's cool about it. Like if you go to any other arcade, like everybody, it's always different, right? It's not like somebody is doing exactly the way somebody else did it. A lot of people have come up to my place and they're like, man, we need this in, I don't know, some obscure town like on the border of Canada or something like that. Man, it would kill it. You know what I mean? Some people have also asked me like, hey, do you want to franchise this? Because I think we can do it. So I can take that as a grain of salt. I don't know if they're really for real, but we do get a lot of like feedback that like is just like, wow, man, this is really special, and that makes me feel like I don't know, like I have like a purpose in the world, like I did something that was just like connected with people. That's the most important thing is that you need to like connect with other people when you go into your space and not make it feel like it's just like half-assed or whatever.
Right. It's all about the community, creating friendships, creating a space for people to hang out, and like you were saying with all the crane machines, like, you know, you intentionally built this space because it's something you love, something you're passionate about. But when you walk into a place that has like full of cranes and redemptions, it's like they don't care about this like I do. Like they're not trying to make a cool place to hang out. They're just trying to make money. And that's the big difference. That's the feeling that you can get. And I think the claw machines just they're usually not for me. Like one here and there is okay in an arcade, but if it's like full of them, that's an issue for me.
They
I
also
think
have
that's cool.
Scandia has like they have these huge like redemption. Most of the arcades are redemption based these days.
Right. Yep.
Like
Kitty
if you
casinos.
Yeah, it's like kid casinos, and they have and what the prizes are. What like I mean, how much do you to get like a real prize? Like let's just say like something worth like $20, you have to spend like what? $500, something like that.
I mean, you like the Xbox is up there and it's like 200,000 tickets or something like that, and it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's, I think that, I know, and a lot of people, I get a lot of, I'm on Facebook sometimes, and some people, I mean, because I'm heavily focused on pinballs. Yeah, a lot of people, there's not a lot of pinball spots, really, there's just not a lot, but, and I understand kind of why, is because it's so hard to just, it's difficult to maintain pinball,
Right.
to playing it how it should be.
Yeah, it's a lot of work to keep the cabinets up to par, and then the people
Yeah.
get kind of finicky about it. And it
Yep.
just a pinball location, you got to have a lot of traffic in there to make the money back on it because they're kind of pricey. But I guess the last thing I was curious about was you went to Midwest Gaming Classic, you got to hang out in the arcade area, got to try the new pins and all that stuff. What did you think about the indie games? Like, what do you think about the indie arcade space? These people that are developing games on their own, and what indie games would you potentially bring to your arcade?
Oh man, that's a hard question because I didn't really get to play that many. I didn't even get to play your guys' stuff, which I really I'm kind of, because I was so pinball focused that it was, and also the Midwest Gaming Classic had so many things going on there. It was like crazy.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
like 3 floors of stuff to do.
yeah, and I was just, I was honestly, I was beat, dude. So, um, I particularly would like to focus if that can be. I knew there was like this game. I think it's called like, it was kind of like like a hyped up version of Asteroids. What was that one called again? It was called.
Oh, you're talking about Cosmotrons?
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Cosmotrons was there. They were in the booth just behind us. But Shane and Dave created the game and they sold it off to one of their fans. So he now deals with it on like Steam and stuff. I don't think they're producing cabinets anymore, but
yeah. I
there are
heard.
some of them in the wild if you're looking to bring one in. But yeah, just keep going. What you were talking about Cosmotrons and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I really, I think I'm trying to focus on games that are kind of more retro. A lot of people are like, for instance, like I don't know, just like anything that's, I don't want to bring too many new games in, or if I selectively bring a new game in, it's going to have like a retro vibe. So any of the indie games that can be like another iteration of like, old Atari stuff and stuff like
Right.
that is what I'm really looking for, because my mission when people come to the arcade is to make them feel like they're 10 years old again. And a lot of people ask like, okay, what's your demographic, right? So demographic, like, I don't know, like, and 0 to 80, you know what I mean? Like, I want anybody who is whatever age to feel like, man, this makes me feel like a little kid again. I actually felt that today. I was actually playing super off-road with two other guys that I've never met before in my entire life. And I literally got to feel that today after a year of being in operation, because honestly, like, I don't even play that many games because I'm usually working on games, or I'm managing staff, or I'm doing all this stuff like no one wants to do, right? So, um,
Taking
um,
care of the business side of it.
yeah, like taking care of the business side is challenging, So, um, and that's what I'm still learning. I mean, luckily I have my wife around, and she's willing to stomach a lot of, do a lot of the stuff that necessarily I don't do as well, like the accounting, and thinking about like long term, like where do we want the space to go? Are we going to do one in San Francisco? Are we going to do one locally here? Should we franchise? Well, if you franchise, will you just lose your soul and just become another, I don't know, whack job or whatever, you know what I mean? Or I don't know, just whatever, just be lame, you know what I mean? So, um, it's hard because it's like, but I also have to learn to be patient, We've only been in business for like a year, and you can't have everything like all, I'm usually pushing, 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 but at the same time, it's just like you also need to like kind of, you need to have some patience. Because next year our hope is that we can double our sales, and be more recognizable, and just be out there, just kicking butt, I mean, we do pinball tournaments. We have multiple events a week, like I said, we have karaoke, we have a DJ night. So We also get a lot of people that are not particularly like super into arcades or video games. They're just people that just want to have and go out and have a good time. Um, and that's really kind of the I would say that's pretty rewarding. And I think that's my mission is not just to like focus just on the pinheads that are just really good at pinball. Sorry, the sun just went down here, so I need to open up the blinds real quick. Um, yeah, so it's just kind of like, and that's the kind of different vibe that we're going for here, is that I would say like being kind of vanilla, where people it's very approachable, where people come in and they're just like, I want to hang out here. I mean, the typical like, and Google knows exactly how long everybody like a typical person stays there, right? So it's like they're there for like a 1.5 hours to 2 hours, and they're probably dropping like $40 a pop on average, right? So
Right.
you get $20 a beer. That's two beers, and they're probably dropping $20 of arcades.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty good return on each customer. So I think you're doing something right, and I think there's definitely room for growth. I think indie games could be an interesting test for sure at your location.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's totally cool that I got to meet you guys. I'm sorry we hogged that Attack from Mars that you wanted to play.
I
Uh,
played it. I got to play it. It's all good. I'd already played a couple of games that day too, and I played at the convention, so we're good.
okay, yeah, yeah. So I
Uh,
also went to on the way back from there. I don't know if you knew, but I had a stop in Minneapolis. So
okay,
I had like a four I don't know like a 5 hour layover or something like that.
that's where I'm based. I'm out of Minneapolis.
Yeah, so I went. I got out of the airport. I checked and I Ubered over to Bad Bunny arcade.
Oh yeah, yeah, the Bad Penny.
I Bad Pen.
So Starcade, because Starcade is the arcade, and then Bad Penny does all the
Yeah,
pinballs on the outside.
it's like, but they're not. I think there's like the building is like on foreclosure and it's like not open very often.
There's a lot going around with that building.
But I got to see like that arcade is freaking amazing, dude. They got games I've never seen before in my life.
Yeah, those are our business partners. They helped us build a lot of the Galactic Battleground stuff, and then they helped us. Well, they got the license for Food Fight, and then we built the four-player Food Fight, and they're handling stuff on the other end. And so yeah, I know those guys really well, like Brian and Tom Kogan at Starcade.
Yeah, I would love to have like a four-player food fight if we can get that done. I don't know. I mean,
In the future, we're looking a couple months out before they're going to be available for sale.
right, right. So, it's a good opportunity for us to know you guys, and it's just I try to go to a lot of different a lot of different events and stuff like that. The gaming classic was pretty cool. I've never been to Milwaukee, so that was pretty rad. That city's pretty rad. I mean, it's just it kind of wakes you up, because when you're in the San Francisco Bay Area, you're just kind of you're in this bubble. Like even when you're in San Francisco, you're just like in the San Francisco bubble. It just feels like San Francisco is the center of the world, but it really isn't. You know what I mean?
I haven't visited San Francisco, so one day we'll get out there. That's really all I had for you, Adam, for questions. So I guess just shout out social medias. Where can people follow along with you so that they can see the growth of the arcade?
Yeah, we got our Instagram. Most of our stuff is on Instagram, so it's just at the Rewind Arcade. Yeah, and our website is www.therewindarcade.com. So that's pretty much all we do. I mean, we're gonna do some streaming, hopefully get some streaming involved, but we don't really have like really top tier players like how like the Flipper Room in Concord has and Monterey, but
Right.
we hope to be kind of like, the premier spot in the Bay Area for like, just a really good experience that's approachable for people that are really good at pinball or people that are just on dates. So a lot of people do like their first dates at our arcade,
Yeah.
and it's pretty rad.
Yeah, I mean, you're just starting, man. It's only been a year. You never know where it's gonna take you. I've got a couple of friends actually who had their first dates at Uptown in Minneapolis, so I totally know how that goes. That's pretty cool that you're experiencing that. And I just want to say thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate your time telling the story of your arcade.
And we're
And for anybody that's still watching, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It helps us a ton. The way we'll continue to grow, and we can all ride it together. We've got Galactic Battleground, both models, the upright Konami and the four-player tabletop available for sale on the website, as well as all the t-shirts. I'll throw those up. Indie Arcade Wave, the website's going to be going up very soon here. You'll be able to check out all the indie games, and Food Fight is soon.
Oh
it'll be
yeah.
available for sale soon. So we'll get that all figured out. But until next time, peace.
Peace, guys.